Mhm. All right, just about that time. About 4 more minutes. Mhm. Hello, Phil. Mhm. Yes, we are live. I'll officially get us started here in about 4 minutes. Okay, there. Been a very busy week here, so we'll tell you all about it here in just a couple of minutes. Mhm. Weather up here's nice. It rained yesterday, most of the day, good bit of the day today, and it was sunny on my drive home. We desperately needed rain. We haven't mowed grass since June, so it's all turning green now. It's just about dead. Get to get back to mowing here shortly. Oh. Let's see. Was it last week we were gone? Yeah. So we'll tell you all about that here in a minute. I'm so traumatized by that trip. Yeah, it was like that's what I thought. Sure. Oh. Well, tonight we'll catch you up on what we've been doing the last 2 weeks since we didn't have a podcast last week. All right. It's 8 o'clock. Good evening, lunatics. Welcome to another episode of the podcast. This is number 222. We were absent from the internet last week because we were traveling back from BCO days in Oklahoma. We went out to the Choctaw Resort and Casino in Durant, Oklahoma for BCO days. I will never, ever, as long as I live, drive 1,000 miles to an event as long as I live. We rented a minivan. I left my house at, I think, 2 a.m., picked up Richie and Evan and Hurricane, stopped in Kentucky, picked up Kyle, stopped in Kentucky and picked up Larry. And then we drove the rest of the way, got in there about 9:30 Central. Tuesday night. Then BCO days was Wednesday and Thursday. We left the casino Friday morning at 8 o'clock Central Time, and I walked in this house Saturday morning at 4:30. That was miserable. And as Evan has pointed out in the content, at least now I know what happened. I thought happened because we were almost to Kyle's house and Richie was driving, and I hit one of those. What do you call them? It makes noise when you run over it on the berm. And Evan jumped up out of the seat and screamed real loud. But I was pretty much immune at that point. So anyway, but we had a great time out there. We got to see a bunch of old friends. We got to hang out with some agents. If you've never been to a Landstar BCO event, the highlight of the whole thing is the Greg Nelson show in the evenings. He is hilarious. He does a great job emceeing the events. Very entertaining. His crowd work is excellent. But that's worth going right there. They feed you very well, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, with really good food. And, got to meet some corporate people. I got to meet the new CEO, a guy named Frank, who seems like the real deal. So we'll see how that goes. But he seems like a good dude. So I'm kind of excited to see how that's going to play out. So that's why we didn't have a show last week, because we were at 8 o'clock Friday night. We were probably coming through Nashville, something like that. It was a very, 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 very long day. And so we did a whole lot of nothing Saturday and Sunday. And then Kyle and I got into the shop Wednesday. We had a bunch of trucks to work on. Thursday, my plan was to kind of come home early and work on editing the shop video that would have posted Thursday night. But I ended up working in the shop until about 11 o'clock last night. So we just went live on YouTube and Facebook and gave everybody a live video. So we've got a lot of exciting things happening in the shop. And so that's going to be good. Kyle's going to be off next week. He's going on a trip with some of his friends. So I will get all of that edited together for you. But we've got engine swaps going on. We did a bunch of emissions repairs. We finished up a major overhaul on a truck that we're putting in the fleet. A friend of mine brought some box trucks. We got those things straightened up. What else did we do? Of course, we worked on some of our fleet trucks. Had to rebuild a fifth wheel. I had to exercise some gremlins and demons from a truck last night. So we got that taken care of. So it's been a very, very, very busy week, and we've still got a lot more to do. So obviously everybody is down in the Southeast is struggling with this weather. My son is in Gatlinburg right now he went down there with a volleyball tournament that we usually go to. My daughter graduated, so we weren't going. So he went with one of his friends, and I believe their plans to go to Dollywood have been dashed. So watching out what's happening in North Carolina. Apparently I-40 is completely shut down in the gorge. Looks like part of the roadway was washed away. They got dams that are fixing to bust. And so we're thinking about those folks. Florida, this is all y'all's fault. I blame Richie for all this destruction. But anyway, so we'll just kind of go with the flow here, whatever y'all want to talk about. I did the Wednesday night financial report where we talked about the last week of September, the month of September, and the end of Q3. We talked about all those numbers, and then just kind of had a general chat. We just kind of went where everybody wanted to go. I spent about an hour and a half on there. So I've been live on the internet this week. So just catching up with you now. So I'll let y'all kind of determine where you want to go with it. Some of the things that have been on my mind is watching these. We've got a new guy on the scene that's going to get rid of all the brokers. Now of course most people will never hear about this guy. He's making a little bit of waves on TikTok, and he's, you know, uh, he's picked a fight with some of our friends who are brokers. And I personally reject the notion that you're just going to judge someone's character based solely on their occupation. I reject that wholly and completely. I reject the amount of force that it would take to get rid of the brokers. Um, it's not going to happen. Um, I know these people are so selfish, ignorant, and blind to basic economics that they don't understand simple economic principles. That all they can think about is themselves. They will never, in a minute, accept responsibility for their own failures. If your business is not doing well in 2024, it's your fault. If your business is doing well in 2024, it is your fault. Um, I never knew a broker personally until I got on TikTok and started, kind of hanging out with Anik um, uh, and Brandy and Steve Vest. Anik came to the truck show in Louisville and emceed our dinner. Yeah, we broke bread with a broker. And she is an accomplished, knowledgeable, successful woman in her field, and she does a great job. And she strives to do a great job, just like we do. We strive to do a great job to serve our customers. Our customers being the people that are in our program that we're trying to teach how to be in business, the customers that are our agents at Landstar who go out and get the freight and make those connections for us so that we don't have to. And our customer, the people that are shipping the freight. That's what our focus is. We understand that if we focus on those things, everything else works itself out. But these people like this guy, this pontificator that wants to get rid of, okay? And I pointed out that some single-celled organism in his comment section said brokers are criminals and should be arrested. And he liked that comment. He acknowledged that comment. He endorsed that comment. You want an armed gang to come and kidnap somebody and lock them in a cage because you don't like their profession? I mean that shows you it shows you the low IQ. Unfortunately, it shows you the lack of basic fundamental education of things like math and economics, business, that you would campaign for someone being locked in a cage, having their livelihood taken away from them, having their family taken away from them. Because you automatically believe they're bad for no other reason than their profession. You don't know them. You don't know their character. You don't know them personally. You've never had an interaction with them. They're the bad guys. And so this guy has, and unfortunately, he's a broker, number one. He's a broker. He has a broker authority. He is a broker that wants to get rid of the brokers. Now, of course, all carriers united. We're going to unite all the carriers together, and we're not going to do all the things that those terrible brokers do because we're different. Now, give me $1,200. I'm sorry. Well, you got to give me $1,200, or times 5 according to his video. I mean, that's $6,000. Well, you got to give me $6,000 because obviously I've got to build this thing to get rid of the brokers, and all these carriers are going to unite. Well, here's the problem. Here's your first and foremost problem when you bathe yourself in self righteousness, where you are the answer to everyone's problem. What are you going to do with the people that don't participate? I don't have my own authority. I work under a carrier's authority. But what you going to do to the people that don't want to join your team? They don't want to pay you 1,200 or 2,400 or 3,600 or like. What are you going to do with them? What are you going to do with the people that don't participate? And this is the problem in a lot of these grand schemes, be they political or business. We're going to do this because we're united. Yeah, no, I'm not. No is a complete sentence. No, I'm not doing it. I'm not joining your team. I'm not marching in your parade. I'm not I'm not giving you money. I'm not doing any of these things. So what are you going to do to me when I say no? Because if you're going to get rid of the brokers by through whatever force you deem necessary, you're going to have to get rid of the carriers that don't play by your rules. How are you going to? What kind of force you going to use on us? That's my question for you. Right? You always have to think about when you want to link, number one, link yourself with another group of people whose identity is based on their association and nothing else. And it could be political, it could be religious, it could be racial, it could be ethnic. Oh, well, see, I'm one of those. I came from over there. And so me and those people were all together. Okay. But what if somebody inside that group that may have that same either identity or association, and they say, "Well, no, I don't want to do that. No, no, thank you." History has shown us what happens to those people. All they're doing is trying to mind their own business. They're in this case, they're either going to go get their own customers, or they're going to work with brokers or lease to a carrier, whatever it is they want to do. However, they choose to operate their truck and how they choose to operate their business. Well, if you're going to destroy one, you're going to destroy the other. And please stop pretending like you're not, because of your failed identity by association. Well, I'm a truck driver. Okay. All right, you're a truck driver. Congratulations. Um, well, we're a brotherhood. Mm, no, I've got some people who happen to be truck drivers that are my friends and associates, and there's a bunch of truck drivers that I don't want to be associated with in any way. Um, so I mean, the good news is this is going nowhere. But I want to remind y'all something, and love him or hate him, Dave Ramsey said something years ago, probably 20 years ago, that I thought was profound. He was taking a call from a lady or a man. Anyway, they were talking about their grandmother was getting scammed by a um, scammer of some sort. And they were like, "Well, what do you do?" And he said, "Well, it's hard to overcome greed." Okay. And I went, "Oh, yeah, yeah, because the scammer's greedy." And he goes, "Well, see, the reason Mama got scammed is because Mama was greedy. Mama wanted something for nothing. And so when somebody presented her with an opportunity that looked like, oh my gosh, well, look, I'm going to get all this and I don't have to do anything for it." That's how you fall for scams, like the pontificator. The pontificator is offering you something. Number one, he cannot deliver. He is completely incapable of delivering what he promised. He's selling you an idea that you can have all this direct customer freight without working for it. Okay. Well, there's lots of physical tortures that I would personally rather endure than making sales calls and knocking on doors trying to get direct freight. I'm really good at a lot of things. I have personally, I have a lot of really intense and well developed characteristics, skills, and knowledge. Selling is not one of them. There's a guy, good guy, okay, that is a vendor, and we buy parts from him occasionally. Really, really good parts. Okay. And he'll call about every 2 weeks. And I take the call. Hey man, just wanted to check and see how you're doing. I say, I'm doing great. I'll call you if I need something. Okay, I'm just going through. So I don't know if he's forced to call me every 2 weeks to check in, but I wish he'd stop. Because if I need something, I'll call you. I don't like salespeople for a lot of reasons. I hate being called out of the blue. My phone rings all day long. I don't need you to call me and waste my time. Okay. So I hate cold calls with a passion. So the idea of doing a cold call, hey, this is Chris, and I've got trucks and I'd like to haul your freight. I would rather be tortured, waterboarded than do that. And why do it when there are people whose literal job is to do that and they like it and they're good at it? Well, I could take that off my plate. So I know that y'all don't want to admit that in this current market that brokers are necessary to do that sales work on behalf of carriers. I did a live, I don't even remember, maybe it was Sunday. And I got Anik and Steve came on and we talked for about an hour. And one of the things that I brought up to them, because another dirty word in the industry right now is the word dispatcher. Okay. Because there are indeed individuals under the guise of being a dispatcher that will do immoral things. They'll steal MC numbers, they'll double broker freight. That's a real thing. And it happens. Okay. But if you're an independent owner operator, one truck, one trailer, one person, and you have to have freight in or on your trailer to make a living, and you can't be on your phone, right? Everybody, you can't be on your phone while you're driving. The federal law says can't be on your phone while you're driving. Well, a quality dispatcher that knows the market, knows the rates, knows the lanes, has a reputation, and you could trust, and you pay them, I don't know, whatever the going rate is, 5 or 10% to book you that load so that you can just drive. Well, to me, that seems like a pretty good deal, but it comes with vetting, making sure you're getting the right person. You're not just, I mean, my gosh, I get 50 emails a week of people that tell me how much they love our podcast and we should have X number person on our podcast as a guest. Okay, well, first of all, you've never heard my voice ever. Okay, you haven't watched 30 seconds of this podcast. You've found a list of podcasts and our name comes up if you search trucking podcast, okay, and you can see our numbers and you go, "Oh, hey, what you know, please stop telling don't lie to me and tell me that you think we have a great podcast when you've never listened to it." And I know you haven't. But I get 50 of these a week. And I'm sure if you are an owner operator with your own authority, you're probably getting blown up all the time with offers for dispatchers and different things, right? Well, you have to be responsible enough to vet those people. But in this market, a good broker is worth their weight in gold. A good dispatcher would be worth their weight in gold because they're going to make you. a lot more money than they cost you. But this whole idea of broker transparency, like you think that's going to solve your problem because it's going to you think, which a bunch of y'all shouldn't believe everything you think, but you think that you are going to have confirmed for you. You think you're going to have confirmed for you something that you already believe. Hey, we have Larry Long. I had my screen covered up and I didn't realize he was here. So y'all stand by while I do a little bit of. All right, hang on a minute. I got to do a little bit of production here. Let me move this over here. I got to be able to see my screen. I got to copy that and paste that and do that and see, did it work? There it is.
Testing, check one, check one.
I got you. I got
Okay.
you wall to wall. Wait a minute. Why is my headphones not working? I got a headphone issue. Hang on a second.
Check one, check one.
Okay. That's better. I can live with it. I only got you in one ear, but I can hear you. Okay. Hey, everybody. Larry Long's here.
Hey, everybody. Sorry I was a little late. I had a little technical issue getting set up here tonight. So I'm in
Where
the
are you at?
process. I'm in the process of moving back down to my downstairs office.
Oh,
And so I had all this stuff upstairs and I wanted to do it from down here tonight. So anyway, I lost track of time and I looked up and it was like 5 after. I
well, he's
apologize.
here
Sorry
now.
I'm late. But here we are. So picking up on your topic right there, it's kind of like people wanting to change carriers because they think they're going to get their problem solved. I'll just come to Landstar because I hear they've got good freight.
Mm-hmm.
Um, let me take all the broker's money because I'm not doing very well on my own. So let me take someone else's money. Let me fix my problem by changing something else. When all you have to do is just change you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I mean,
most don't do that.
uh-oh. Hey, I lost your audio. I don't know. It just went away. Oh,
No,
somehow you got muted.
I muted myself.
Oh, there you go.
Sorry.
You was
Um,
on a roll.
well, I'm just saying, instead of instead of doing everything else and then checking yourself last, why don't you just check yourself first? Yeah, because that's usually the problem. I've got a little mirror that I can show you to prove that. But that 9 times out of 10, we find out that that's usually the problem, the source of the problem, not the carrier, not the broker, not the truck. It's the guy whose picture's in the mirror.
Yesterday evening, yesterday afternoon, I booked a load for a guy. It was supposed to be a preloaded trailer at 8:00 on a big account. He gets over there at 7:00 and the place is a ghost town in Georgia. And he's trying to call everybody and call the agent and this, that, and the other. Well, right before this, I'm scrolling through Facebook and I see some rant about, I can't believe the agent, I got here and nobody's here and the agent didn't tell me and I drove straight into this storm. And so I laughed and made fun of the guy, of course, because that's what I do.
'Cause that's what we do.
And then this guy calls. And after we got off the phone, I looked at Greg standing there at the shop and I went, I bet you same deal. So apparently this is in Georgia. The storm's coming. So they just close the place down and leave. Don't tell anybody. Right. The agent doesn't find out until long after everybody's gone and drivers are showing up to pick up trailers. And I said, well, I've got you another preloaded trailer out of Georgia. We'll just go get that one. He keeps trying to call them. Well, they've rolled the doors down and they've gone home. Right. So I scramble around today and I find him a repower. Some poor bloke has broke down in Tennessee. And I said, well, head that direction. And so I got him a load. But, you know, we all have weather apps. We have traffic apps. Okay. Somebody right now is going to try to drive through the gorge on 40 because they haven't looked at Google Maps to see that there's big red X's all the way across that map because the road's closed. But somebody's going to drive right there. The GPS said I got to go that way. So it's unfortunate, but that's one of the things that has been really difficult for me in this position that I have been in, because the first about 20 years of my career, we didn't have any of these tools. We didn't have GPS. We didn't have satellite views. We didn't have any of that stuff. Well, now we do, and people won't use it. And it's really frustrating sometimes to see people drive right into. Let me tell you this one. We had a team. This is probably 2 years ago in the wintertime. We had a team. You're muted, by the way. You're still muted. We
bless
had a
their
team.
heart.
Bless their hearts. They were older people, right? And they struggle with technology. Lord have mercy. And but they did a restart somewhere in Indiana, and they were going to, I don't know, Connecticut or something on a massive load, like $8,000. That was a monster load. Well, I'm watching them on the GPS tracker, and they drive right into a snowstorm. I mean, head on into a snowstorm. There's 3 other ways they could go. They could go 70, they could go 80, and they could go 90. They drive right into a snowstorm. Hey, man, it's snowing. We're going to have to shut down. I'm like, what? So then I look them back up later, and I see where they at. And I said, why did you drive directly into a snowstorm? Oh, we didn't know. Oh, y'all ever heard of a weather app? There's like 600 different weather apps on your phone. You know, um, we didn't. I mean, think about it, y'all. I had to rely on a CB radio back in the day. God help us all. It's a miracle that we ever got any good information. And one thing that y'all youngsters, y'all young whippersnappers will never,
That was a reliable source, wasn't it?
yeah, one thing that y'all will never hear is being in a truck stop somewhere some night. You got the CB on, and you always heard these words. Hey, what's the name of this town? Hey, what's the name of this town?
Yeah.
Because they didn't know where they were.
How do you spell that? How do you spell
How do you spell
Albuquerque?
Yeah. Yeah. Because when you know GPS, you're at the end of your day, you pull into a truck stop or you're pulling to get fuel or something, and you got to write on your logbook and you don't know where you're at. Hey, grab CB. Hey, what's the name of this town? Hurricane. How do you spell that?
Where am I?
Hurriane.
Somebody tell me where I am.
Yeah. Um,
And how do you spell it?
yeah. Gosh, we have all these amazing tools these days.
You
And
know what I don't miss about you know what I don't miss about that?
uh,
I ain't wearing no panties.
oh God Almighty.
Or
I
that
bet.
every day too.
Um, Listen, this, okay. While we were out at BCO days, they had an Oklahoma state trooper come up and give a little presentation about inspections.
And
Guy did a great job.
and he was a good guy too.
Yeah, did a great job. He was funny. He was engaging. He basically went through his 37-step process for how he would train a trooper to do an inspection, right? And he
But
just gave it.
he read the room.
Right. He read the room. Okay. Then he said these words that almost knocked me out of my chair. He's talking about testing the tractor protection valve. Okay. And your tractor protection valve is what sets your brakes when your air pressure gets to 20. It's part of your daily. Y'all do this daily, right? Your daily pre-trip inspection is to check your brake system and pump your brakes down until the tractor protection valve sets the brakes at 20 psi. He's at the point talking about testing the tractor protection valve. And he goes, well, the new Cascadias, what happens when you open the door? And we all just stared back at him. And he goes, well, the brake's set. And I said, wait, hold on, stop, please. Are you telling me that Freightliner had a meeting All the designers and the engineers got together and they said, well, I guess if they open the door, we're going to have to make the brakes set because apparently, and Richie confirmed this through his contacts that are still trainers, they'll just get out. They'll just open the damn door and walk off and not set the brakes. So Freightliner has had to go, all right, well, we can't have that anymore. Because, in the last, I don't know, however many years, you open the door with the brakes released and the stupid horn starts blowing. Like, and somebody during this meeting with the CEO, Frank, well, I started it, they finished it. But he was talking about investments in equipment and investments in technology, and on the side of the screen it said training and education. And I thought, oh, hey, that's me. That's what I do. I said, hey, listen, brother, I have identified a problem that we have in this industry where drivers, qualified drivers, because everybody's mad because they think Landstar's changed their qualifications. No, the qualifications haven't changed. Minimum 23 years of age, minimum 1 year over the road experience, no tickets or accidents, or 1 or 2, whatever it is. We got truck drivers that can't read maps. We got truck drivers that they can't read. Let's read a map. Can't back a trailer. Can't shift gears. Can't have no concept or clue how hours of service work. And he didn't bat my comment away. He kind of noted it. And then 4 other guys were like, well, hey, I mentor people and we have a serious problem because nowadays a qualified 1-year truck driver don't know how to drive a truck. You have to have the brakes set for them when they open the door because they can't remember to set the brakes. Like, that's a societal problem that has bled into a trucking problem. And now here, we are at Landstar where people want to come and be independent business owners and can't do math, can't read an email, can't comprehend an email, can't communicate, can't think. It's a huge, huge problem in this society. I got to bring something up here. I saw something. It was in my Facebook memories from like 10 years ago. And I got to scroll through here just a second. Y'all bear with me because I wanted to bring this up tonight. Because it it kind of makes a point that the problem isn't new because this has been around for a while. I'm still scrolling. I'm almost there. Oh gosh, where'd it go? And I skipped past it. Oh, we're so close. We're so close. I'm still scrolling. Oh man. Was it yesterday? Here it is. It's actually from a year ago. Public school has given morons a false sense of superiority by labeling their order following as intelligence. When you're in business, you cannot wait for somebody to tell you how to fix your problem. You have to be the problem solver. So if you come into a system that's like Landstar, and there are others out there that are similar to how the setup works, it's on you, right? Landstar can assist you. They have people that they employ in various departments that can give you assistance. Hey, I need a permit. Hey, I need help with this, that, or the other, right? But on the ground, like today, when I called this repower, they had it posted, I think, for $2,000. And I asked her the question. I said, okay, you got this thing posted for $2,000. Is that fair to the broke down truck? And she said, well, I don't hear that question very often. I said, well, I've been there. I've been the broke down truck. And so we talked about the numbers, and it was indeed fair it was almost $4 a mile to us, right? So I just thought about that, because I had to think about, okay, well, here's the truck broke down. Where is he? Who's got the paperwork? Is the truck locked? Is the trailer locked? Like I had to roll through all these questions so that I can anticipate what I may or may not run into when I get there. That's a big part of operating a business is you have to a lot of cases you have to think 2 or 3 steps ahead, especially when you're ordering parts. Hey, does that part I just ordered need a gasket? Oh yeah, it needs a gas. Okay, well, why don't it don't come with it? No. Well, does it need any seals? Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. You got to have 2 seals. Okay, well, let's go ahead and order them seals too. Or like Cummins. I'm gonna go after Cummins here for a minute because you almost had me. I've been dealing with Detroit's for so long. We got a couple of Cummins in the shop, and I'm like, you know what? This ain't that bad. You know, I might could like this Cummins thing. You know, working on these trucks has been okay until I ordered a clamp for the EGR that doesn't come with a nut because the nut for the clamp is a separate part number. Thank you, Cummins.
I figure you probably got plenty of those already sitting around.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I have all kinds of, you know, but I went to the hardware store, because the one nut that we didn't have was a quarter 28 fine thread nut. So I had to go to the damn hardware store and buy one because they don't have enough sense to just put it in the bag with the clamp. That would be, you would think, like kind of logical, but truck companies don't do logic apparently anymore. Somebody asked about the podcast feed, and yes, I think I'm a couple weeks behind, but I will get on that. Oh, there's been a lot of activity on YouTube. Holy crap. Let's see here. Gosh, mighty, y'all been busy. Let me have a look at these comments for a second and see. Um, okay, Matthew, I saw something about a couple of guys that believed in what NOAA, the National Owner Operator Association, sold them and are now suing the NOAA because they are worse off than before. Matthew, if you have any articles or thing about that, send that to me, please. Freight broker transparency is un-American. Yeah, I could go there. Well, depending on what you think of America, what that means, that could be all over the place. A lot of great brokers out there. Paying a small percentage to get paid next day is the best. Maybe depends on. I mean, Rob Hamp, if you're talking about factoring or quick pay, I mean, it's another one of those deals you got to do math, right? Because if that could be looked at like an annual percentage rate that could be really, really, really high because you're trading money for time or time for money. Well, either way. Dwayne, I met a 20-year company driver. The only reason he didn't want to become an owner op is because he has to pay his own taxes. Okay.
Well,
Oh,
well,
lost my
at
cursor.
least he has a at least he has a reason.
There it
I
goes.
don't know of anybody that wants to pay their taxes.
I certainly don't. I do it as an act of self-defense, so they don't, send people to the house to take my stuff. Um,
But so far, I've been able to make more than the taxes were. So it was still in my best interest to make the money and pay the tax rather than not do anything so I don't have to pay the tax. That's just a little flawed thinking there in my mind, but
well, it's like the people that will spend a dollar unnecessarily to save a quarter in taxes. Well, I get a write off. Yeah, but you're trading a dollar for a quarter. It doesn't make any sense. Um,
mm,
it just, but that's one of those things that sounds good. Hey man, if I make this necessary purchase, one of the benefits to making that necessary purchase is it's a write off for taxes. Okay, well, sure, that's perfect sense. But I'm gonna go buy a Maserati as a company car. Well, I can write it off. Oh, come on now. Now you're just being dumb. Anthony Whiting on Facebook. Hi, Chris. I had to dispatch and drive for 2 weeks this summer while the boss was on vacation. That's like babysitting while the wife is gone. Dispatching is an art. Sales, dispatch, and drivers are all vitally important to make this country move. Absolutely, it is. You know, right before I came off the road in 2021, I was dispatching myself and three or four other trucks. Um, y'all, that was rough. Um, that was really rough. Could I do it myself on my own? Sure, I could. You know, as a seasoned person, have been doing it a long time. But when our focus, the focus of our company and the focus of our program
Excuse me.
is the first time owner operator, um, you've got to understand that you're going to make a lot of really silly, expensive, costly mistakes in the beginning because you don't know any better. You've never been in that position before. And it's natural. It's perfectly natural that you're going to make mistakes. But what if one of them is fatal? You know, and that's what we're trying to do with the 18-month program is to give you an opportunity to make those mistakes in our truck where it's not going to kill us, but it wipe you out. I've got a BCO mentoring client right now that is a fantastic guy. He's a hard worker, excellent communicator. But gosh, I wish he'd have come and did the program before he bought that truck. Um, he's teetering on the edge. And I watch the silly mistakes that he makes listen, I'm good when it comes to picking loads, but when you screw up the trip planning and make it impossible to do the next load when it was perfectly possible without doing anything crazy. That's what we do here is we give you that opportunity to say, okay, yeah, you could do it that way. Boy, this way's better. Or you did it that way. How'd that work out for you? Let's try this way. Right. Calvin, is Western Star the same thing as Freightliner? It is now. Western Star used to be a separate company. Daimler bought it back in the early to mid 2000s when they were buying up everything. Matthew, good evening, gentlemen. Chris, you still uploading podcasts on Spotify? Yes, and yes, but no. But yes. But sometimes. Theoretically, a Western Star could be a lunatic truck. Sure. Rob Hamp, I heard they make the Cascadia to have 3 bunks for training. That is true. The last one I saw was a CR England truck where up above the driver's area, they had a third bunk where they could have 3 people in the truck at one time. God help us. Imagine being older than the internet. Evan, you shut your filthy mouth.
Is that our Evan?
Yeah. Yeah.
He's fired.
Yeah.
Check with Phil and find out how to handle the processing for that.
Yeah. Phil's been fired 72 times, so Phil can walk you through that process. He's got all the paperwork. Let's see. Ian,
Chris, there's been several questions about how to get in the 18-month program. You want to
Well,
do that? You want to do that?
yeah. It's right on the screen on both of them. BlueRibbonLogistics.com. All of the information is there on the website. It's called Masterclass. So if you just go to BlueRibbonLogistics.com, click on Masterclass, there is a very long explanation. And then if you are interested after you have read all that information, you can click apply for the masterclass. And you'll answer a bunch of questions that will help us determine whether or not this is something for you. And then we will set up an interview. So I'm still rolling through these YouTube comments because there is a bunch of them. Y'all have been busy. Okay, they're just talking about they're talking about 3-row trucks. Let's go over here.
Let's talk about the Western Truck Lunatic for just a second, okay? Because there is one caveat there. that truck is like a Coronado, it's semi-aerodynamic. So it can be made into a lunatic truck, but it's never going to equal the fuel mileage of a comparably equipped Columbia, because of
Yeah.
the aerodynamics of the profile of the truck is it's just not aerodynamic. So you're gonna give that away, probably a mile per gallon for the life of the truck. If you start doing the math on 100, how long you keep that truck 2 or 300,000 miles, and do the math on that dollar a mile that you're giving up, it's gonna be a huge, huge concession that you're gonna make to use that truck as a lunatic truck.
I mean, guys, look at race cars. Okay, look at circle track cars, dirt cars, dragsters. Aerodynamics is huge. Drag. Okay, when they put a car in a wind tunnel, they're looking for downforce, which we don't really care anything about, but they're also looking for drag. Drag is anything that sticks up and interferes the smooth run of that air across that truck or car. Same thing with a big truck. Those big cans on the classics and the W9s and the Western Stars and the Peterbilts, that's drag. Okay. It's why they're taking mirrors off of trucks now and putting cameras in. The less drag is more horsepower available to turn the wheels, and less drag is better fuel mileage. Fuel is your number one expense as an owner operator. So the less drag you have, the more aerodynamics that you have, the more you will save in fuel. Now, I had a truck in the shop today. All right. '06 Columbia that has had atrocious fuel mileage for a while. Okay. And we did some repairs on it. And Kyle was like, hey, go drive that around the block. So I hopped in it. And within 30 seconds of being in that truck, I went, this engine fan's not shutting off. So I turned the air conditioner off just to make sure, drove it down the road and back, came back. The solenoid that turns the fan on and off was bad. That engine fan sucks horsepower out of a motor. And with that engine fan running constantly and never shutting off, it is a horrible fuel mileage drain on that engine. So I now fully expect half to 3/4 of a mile per gallon improvement out of that truck because I fixed the engine fan. And I don't even know what it cost, but I bet it was $30. I haven't even looked yet to see. Let's see if he put the receipt in Dropbox. If he hasn't, I'm gonna go find him. Oh, yep, there it is. Survey says $68.25, and it took me 15 minutes to put it on. $68.25 for a fan solenoid is probably going to save that truck a few $1,000s in fuel, right? But if you don't know to think about, okay, well, my fan should be cycling. It should be off and then on and off and on, because it should only come on for two reasons. One, when the air conditioner needs it. Two, when the engine temperature is high and the fan needs to kick on and come down. So I think that's going to make a huge difference. And that's why every time I get in a truck, not only as an experienced driver, but as a mechanic, I instantly hear things that drivers don't hear. I instantly feel things that drivers don't feel. And that's part of the learning process. The great thing about us having a shop now is during your 18 months, you're going to be able to come in and watch us turn these wrenches. You're going to watch me replace a wire from an alternator to a starter like we did last night. You're going to watch me replace an alternator.
Well, you're gonna have the opportunity to do it. Some people come to the shop and lay in the bunk and sleep. So
Well, that's true.
you have the opportunity to learn that stuff if you're curious enough and give a rat's ass.
One of the things that Dolan told me that was kind of profound when I first started hanging up there, he was talking about the difference between American drivers and foreign drivers. Okay. And there's all kinds of nasty opinions about foreign drivers and people can't speak English, blah, blah, blah. And he said, as a service provider that goes on a road call, if you get there and the driver is American, no matter what flavor, they're going to be in the bunk watching TV while you fix the truck. But if it's one of these foreigner owner operators, they're going to be right here the whole time. When you pull up, they're going to be covered in grease because they've tried everything that they can to fix it before they had to break down and call you to come out. And then the whole time you're working on it, they're right here beside you watching everything you're doing. So they're not going to have to call you again the next time.
And asking
That,
questions.
yeah. Um, and that's something that I, all that time I hung out with Carl, I didn't realize completely what I was learning, but I taught myself how to be a mechanic by watching other people and asking questions and studying and research and do it sometimes and figure it out. And sometimes certain people just have a gift. Kyle is one of those people that has a gift. When we had that glider that got rolled over, before I sent it to the scrap heap, I tried taking the steering column out of it because I thought, hey, we might need one of these someday. And I worked on that thing and I beat my brains out for hours and I never could get it. And it went off to steering column heaven with the rest of the truck. We swapped one out today. Kyle looks at it, hits it with a couple of sockets, and had the thing out in 5 minutes. I'm like, I hate you. um, so, um, but it's just, you can't be expected to instantly know things. Somebody's been a driver for 25 years. Somebody's been in business for 50 years. You can't just immediately come into business and be like, oh, I completely understand all this stuff now. You're going to learn the hard way because there's really nobody. There's a bunch of people that'll lie to you and fill your head with a bunch of nonsense. But there's very, very seldom where there'll be people that will sit down and show you what to do. Let's see if I missed any TikTok comments. I have not. Uh, hashtag stop firing Phil. Well, listen, stop needing to be fired. I mean, I know Barb fired him once a week there for a while. Best way to talk my buddy out of buying a hot shot rig.
Frontal
Well,
lobotomy.
brain surgery. Um, it
Just
listen,
just 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 ask if he owns a calculator. Get it out and use it.
it it just it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make financial sense. I mean, even there used to be a guy on TikTok. I haven't seen him for a while. He had like a 2001 F350. It had close to 1,000,000 miles on it. And people would just absolutely roast him in the comment section. I don't know why you drive that old thing around. He's like, it's paid for. It's been paid for many, 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 many times. Um, but y'all, these pickup trucks the prices are insane for what you're getting. They're insane for what they want for a
And you're
pickup
gonna
truck.
be and you're gonna be wore out in a fat 100,000 miles.
Yeah. Yes, I've seen, Chevrolets and Fords and stuff with 1,000,000 miles on them, yada, yada, yada. Pickup trucks are not made to run freight. And for me, it's a mathematical calculation. I can buy a used Class 8 truck right now for 20 grand, a pretty nice one because the market's in the tank. I mean, hell, I can buy a damn old Columbia or Century for 5 grand and could put very little in it to make it haul hotshot freight. I could buy a nice Cascadia for 20 grand, 25. And these people are going to spend $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 for a pickup truck. They're not made to haul freight, people. Um, and of course, all the hotshot people are going to come for me. Well, I do it. Yeah, well, okay, you do it for now. I want to know if you're still in business a year from now, or 2 years from now, or 3 years from now. Just because you see somebody doing something does not mean that it's something you need to do. Alex says, I'm an owner operator. I haul containers, and he's saying he can make what I make weekly. He's crazy as hell. I mean, look, if you got into the right niche, if you sure. It's like, I'm not saying that it's not possible to make money as a hot shot. Certainly possible. But the practicality of it, the risk level of it, and the actual ability to turn those numbers is so incredibly low. I guess that says styling profiling. I've been an owner operator going on 2 months. What's the best advice you could give me that could set me for long-term success? Well, if it ain't wrote down, it didn't happen. There you go. If you are not writing down in some, I don't care if it's a notebook, spreadsheet, accounting software, if you are not writing down every single penny and then studying that data somehow every week, every month, every quarter, and every year, you have no idea what your cost to operate is. And if you don't know your cost to operate, it's going to be more difficult for you to keep your truck moving. So that's the thing that I see the most is people have no concept or clue of what their actual cost per mile is, because hell, they don't even know what their fuel mileage is. All right. So here's another piece of free advice. Go to letstruck.com and sign up for fuel gauges. It's free. There's an app. Every time you get fuel, you put in the gallons, you put in the price, you put in the mileage, and you can track your fuel mileage in 30 days, 90 days, 60 days, lifetime. But fuel mileage, aside from the cost of fuel mileage is an important thing to understand to know that your truck is operating properly. Because if you've got a 90-day average of 7.5 and all of a sudden you start getting 5.5, hey, Houston, we have a problem. You can use that metric to determine that there's a problem with the vehicle.
The bottom line is you have to know your numbers, all your numbers. And the only way you know that is to record them and to analyze them. So if you're not keeping up with the numbers, you're not gonna be an owner operator very much longer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's guys on YouTube right now. $90,000 for an F450 or a 2020 Freightliner for $20,000. Come on now. And let's talk about the other elephant in the room nobody wants to talk about. I did hot shot in 1999 and in 2000. 3,500 Dodge Dually Ram, 4-wheel drive, with a 48-foot flatbed. Y'all, that was miserable. Sleeping in the back seat of that damn truck was awful. Now, my buddy that owned the truck, I owned the trailer, he eventually stretched it and put a sleeper from an old truck on it. But I'm going to drive a pickup truck when I could be driving a big truck that has like a condo sleeper and a bed, and like they're made for hauling freight, y'all. That's what they're made to do. Pickup trucks are not made to haul freight. It's just insane. The amount of money that these things are. The fuel mileage app is called Fuel Gauges. You can find it at letstruck.com. It's available on the Apple Store. It's available on, Phil tells me it's available on the Google Play Store somehow. I never could find it. But just search Let's Truck, and you'll find it. It's free. Now, I'll tell you this. They also have a program. It's a paid program called Profit Gauges. It's $19 a month. Even if you're doing, high-level accounting, I would still, for $19 a month, I would still highly, highly recommend you use that program. It's incredible. It has everything that you need because the one thing that it will do that the high level accounting software won't do is give you a cost per mile. Profit gauges is an amazing, and I tell you what I'm fixing to do with it. I got a phone call a couple weeks ago from some lawyer wanting to let me know I owed $1,200 to the city of Columbus. And I said, "What the hell are you talking about?" Well, you lived in Columbus. And I said, "No, I lived in Grove City, thank you." "Well, you lived inside the city limits, and so for that time you were there, you owe us all this money." So I finally, after a week of begging, got them to send me this judgment order. And I read it, and then I went and looked at the code that the thing referenced, and all by the power invested in me, you owe all this money. Here, give me your money, citizen. Well, it said for the year 2013, and it went off my federal tax return, you owe us $6,000 or something. I said, "Y'all, I didn't live in Ohio in 2013. We moved March 1st. So for what you say you owe me and what you tell me I owe for 2013. So I'm sure they're going to be like, "Oh, well, where's your proof?" Okay, well, thank you. I'll go to Profit Gauges. I'll reactivate my account. I'll go back to 2013 and I'll show them what I made in January and February and say, "Here you go. Here's the numbers right here because I tracked every penny in 2013 in Profit Gauges." They're probably going to tell me to pound sand because they got a wizard in a black robe to put his signature on a piece of paper, but they're not going to get money out of me that quite so easily. Just threatening me, calling, because we said so. That might have worked in 2013. It sure as hell ain't going to work now. 11 years later. um, Dwayne, it's the barrier of entry that's attractive. No CDL can get an auto loan to buy one. Well, that's true. Talking about hot shots. And that's the same problem that we have with Lone Mountain. Because you just go in there with a little bit of money and they'll let you sign your name on a piece of paper. You talk about low barrier of entry. That's it right there. That leads people down the road to hell quickly, very quickly. But hauling freight is hauling freight. It whether you're doing it in a big truck or with a flatbed or a hot shot or a straight truck, hauling freight requires some sort of skill and knowledge. And for someone to be like, "Oh, I have a pickup truck. I'll just go get a trailer and start hauling freight." Okay, well, I wish you the best of luck, Hoss, because you're operating in an environment around people that have been doing this a very long time, and they're going to do it better than you can, no matter what kind of truck you're driving. And you're going to have to um, compete with them. It goes back to this problem with this pontificator guy and this Carrier United nonsense. Again, I ask the question, what are you going to do when I say no? I'm not going to join you. I'm not going to enable you, endorse you, sanction you. I'm not going to support you, and I'm not going to participate. What are you going to do to me? Because I'm as big of a problem and an obstacle for you as is the broker and whatever straw man nonsense that you want to boogeyman that you want to come up with. I'm as much of a problem as the broker is because I'm not going to do it. You think you're going to unite everybody together and under your common cause until somebody says no. That's what self-righteousness gets you when you decide that you've got all the answers and then you're going to punish anyone that doesn't like your answer. Y'all better beware of this guy. Stay away from him because he's going to take your money and leave you with nothing. And talking with Anik and Steve on that live last week, here's what y'all going to have to think about. This guy, this pontificator, has already had his MC number, his broker MC, because he's a broker. He's already had his number blacklisted by a bunch of brokers because of all this hate and discontent he's stirring up. And your MC's
and the back solicitation.
Yeah.
So go join him and get your MC number blacklisted next to him. Then
Yeah.
once you go there and you figure out you don't wanna do that, you can't go back and do it with your other broker anymore because they will no longer do business with you.
Yep.
So be careful whose, hat you hang your or whose,
What?
whatever you
Yeah.
call it, thing you hang
I
your
know.
hat on.
Yeah. Dustin, what other apps on iPhone y'all use other than fuel gauges? Well, my most used app is probably numbers, spreadsheets. Um, when I was a driver, there's another one that I really like called All Stage Truck and Travel. I really like that. I was never a big fan of Trucker Path. I like All Stage Truck and Travel. It's like $5 or $10. But it's a really nice app. Shows you Walmarts and all that kind of stuff. I like it a lot. So I've been out of the game for 3 years as a driver, so I'm sure there's some that come along that I haven't um, I haven't found. Uh, but again, when you when you identify yourself through association, it leads you down a very dangerous path where you're going to start identifying people with association, and that's how wars get started. That's how people get hurt. Um, and there's no need for it. You know, you can, and I don't. Oh, I think I do have one right here. Get it out of the plastic. I don't know why they came up with such a big ass piece of plastic for such a small little thing. You know, it's indestructible plastic too. Can't hardly get. Why won't this damn thing open? There it goes. Larry came up with these. He put our logo on them. And if you want to see the root of the problem in your business, it's right there. Just look in that mirror and you can see the source of all your problems. All right. We were handing these out at BC. I gave one to the CEO of Landstar. I said, "Hey, did anybody give you one of these?" He's like, "No, what is it? Tell me about it." And I said, "Well, sometimes truck drivers have a hard time seeing where the root of the problem is." And I popped that mirror open. And he got a big laugh out of that. The trucking business is not the same anymore. No, it's not. Um, Nothing is. Nothing stays the same. Things always change. When you're in business, you adapt to the changes. We've had to adapt to the changes. We adapted to the market. We changed our expectations based on market conditions. I mean, I could still set my minimum or my goal for $10,000 every week, but we ain't gonna hit it. So I adjusted it down to be more reasonable. I adjusted it to $8,000 a week, $1,450 a day instead of $2,000 a day. We adjusted our expectation based on the market
We have also made it common knowledge that the trucking business not being the same anymore isn't necessarily a bad thing
right. Oh,
because
let's see.
you kinda say that like you think it's gotten worse, um, but that's not necessarily the case.
Justin
All
91D on TikTok. So what do these guys do that went into big debt and got behind on taxes? I hear it a lot. They spend a very, very long time paying them off.
Well, they're gonna be paying the IRS for a long time to come. That's what they're gonna be doing.
Uh, yeah, I mean, it, it's uh, it's just a part of life, you know. Um, the things change, conditions change. It's funny for me right now. Just watching the general conversation on social media, especially right now, surrounding inflation. Right, inflation has become another one of those boogie word straw man terms. Um, well, inflation happens when people with certain powers make really, really dumb decisions, like what happened in 2020, 21, and 22. So I could have told you if you would have asked me in 2020, "Hey man, What do you think 2024 is going to be like? Oh, it's going to be massive inflation because you can't print money out of thin air and not have there be massive inflation. The good news for everybody is that this ain't our first rodeo. This has happened before. It happened in the 70s and early 80s. Then we had unbelievable prosperity from the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. And then they engaged in all of this stupid behavior and all of this money printing. And that's the result. All right. So everybody's mad about $7 eggs and $5 gas and oh my gosh, you can't get a mortgage. And well, yeah,
And as soon as you get this trucking business figured out that you're into now, guess what? It's gonna change again.
yeah.
Change is inevitable.
It's just it's the up and down. I mean, go look at go Google an economic chart that shows from 1900 to 2024. Okay, 124 years, and watch it do this up and down and up and down, and it blows up and it pops and it comes down and it goes up and it pops and it comes. The Austrians call it the business cycle because it just comes around and it's different every time. You know, one time it was real estate, and then it'll be, you know, we got an education bubble getting ready to pop because people are going hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt for something that's not worth $1,000. You know, and eventually that debt load of all of those student loans is going to crush the economy, just like the housing boom. You know, back from the late 90s, it started with Congress, of course, where all stupid ideas begin. It started in the late 90s. It made it up to 2008, and the whole thing crashed. It's coming. It's just a matter of time. But recessions and depressions, they don't last, right? You have to worry about you. There's lots of things that every individual can do. The problem we're having right now with a generation that is separated from, never experienced, I don't want to call it hardship. It wasn't hardship. But, you know, I was born in 76. I grew up with a lot without a lot of technological things, right? I still remember the first television with a remote control. I still remember the first cordless phone. I still remember the first VCR and then CD and then the DVD. A lot of these kids have never experienced a simpler existence. And so their expectations for what is the minimum is so incredibly high. And then they get into an economic environment like this and they're like, oh, well, I have to have $40 an hour. No, you need to stop buying stupid stuff. Is what you need to do. You need to delete the DoorDash app. You need to stay out of Starbucks. Make your own damn coffee. My daughter does. She's a coffee connoisseur. You know, she makes this witch's brew every morning before she walks out the door to go to school. Um, you have choices, but you don't want to make those choices because they're uncomfortable. And a bunch of y'all have never been uncomfortable, and that's a big part of your problem. Y'all need to get uncomfortable, get used to it, because uncomfortable can be a very, very lucrative place. But you know, we got to put wax paper on the seat to keep your candy ass from sticking to it all the time. You're going to live a very, very difficult existence. You know, and I'm Gen X, and I support that message. Let's see here. Going back through the comments. Rob Hamp, still any of them small box truckers with the old U-Haul van out there? Yeah. I mean, again, I'm not saying you can't make money in non-CDL box truck. I'm not saying you can't make money with a hot shot. I'm not saying you can't make money by going and buying a brand new truck. The question is for how long? For how long can you sustain that? That's going to be your issue. When you try to take a truck that's not meant to haul freight and haul freight with it, there's going to be problems. Can you overcome those problems? If you can't, you know, oh, I'm going to go buy a brand new GMC Super HD because it's got a warranty. Okay, well, go put 100,000 miles on one and, you know, 10 months and walk into the dealership and tell them how you want to get it fixed under warranty. Let me know how that works out for you.
Well, here's the
They
other
got
here's another thing. First of all, you're asking us to talk about something we know nothing about. We're not into hot shot. That's not what we do. That's not what our program is. We talk to people about doing what we have proven that works. I don't know whether hot shot works or not. I've heard a lot of people who've done it um, say that it doesn't because the equipment does not hold up. And people buy the equipment because they don't want to go through the process of getting a CDL. So it's a settled for decision. So you just have to talk to people who've done it or do the research yourself. You're asking us to give you an answer that we've never proved it right one way or another. So if you want to talk about stuff we do, we can tell you exactly how to work. Right now, we're just speculating. But if it was
right.
such a great idea, there'd be a lot of people doing it. Okay, and we'll look around and find somebody that's doing it. Then go talk to them, and go look at their tax return.
Yep. Yeah. This society is so much about flash and presentation. You know, I want to be seen a certain way. You know, there was a guy at BCO days that stood up and said, "We ought to have to send pictures of our trucks in before we're allowed to lease on." And I felt personally attacked by that because I specialize in ugly trucks. Um, I've got a bunch of ugly trucks. Now, on top, they're ugly. Get under them with a creeper, that's a completely different situation. They're the prettiest trucks on the road because their suspensions are perfect and their drive lines are perfect. And all of the things that the road pirates want to come after, they don't have to worry about. And also, I mean, this idea that if you have an ugly truck, that the DOT is going to be more um, aware of you. Um, we haven't had that experience, and I got trucks with different color hoods and than the body, and they have not been any inspected any more so than the truck that doesn't look like that. So I have absolutely no empirical data other than I've been running ugly trucks for a while, and we don't get inspected any more than anybody else. Christian
Christian
Bonilla,
Bonilla,
yeah.
we've got a deal for you. Okay.
Hey,
Um,
you want a
i-
step deck? I'll tell you one.
if you're looking for a step deck, we have got one we will fix you up with. Okay. You can buy it, you can rent it, you can lease it, you can use it. Um,
So to the question, what would be a good gross in this market before Landstar cut? Well, I'm telling you that our weekly goal is $8,000. Okay. So $8,000 times 50, if you're going to work full time, that'd be $400,000. That's the goal. Right. Now, if you're only going to work 40 weeks, well, now you're looking at 320,000. But there's no reason that you should not be able to get within 85 to 90% of an $8,000 goal. $1,450 if we pick up today and deliver tomorrow, $2,175 for a weekend load. That's how we book freight. I don't care what it pays per mile. Obviously, the shorter the load is, the better the rate per mile, but I don't care about that. If I pick up today and I deliver tomorrow, it needs to pay $1,450. And if it's 2 days, and this is where a lot of y'all get in trouble because you don't think about the hold time. If I'm on a load for 2 days, it's got to pay me $2,900 or it ain't worth doing. Right. Sometimes I have to take a $900 today to get to a 2,000 tomorrow, and I still get my 2,900 for 2 days. But some of you will look at an $1,800 load and be like, "Oh man, look, that's a great rate per mile," but it takes you 2 days to get rid of it. Well, now you're $1,100 behind. So you have to think about the amount of time that you're going to be tied up in that load. You got to make every load count because sometimes you get to the shipper in New Jersey that gives you bad hazmat paperwork and no placards on a Thursday evening, and you can't get it solved until Friday. So you lose your weekend load and you're stuck on a New Jersey to Toledo, Ohio load all weekend. Those things are going to happen and nobody's going to stop it. Nobody's going to fix it. It is what it is. Now you've got to try to make up for it next week. You have to be able to handle the things that come at you and not stomp your feet and throw a fit and hold your breath like a toddler. It wasn't going to help. Now, I in this situation last night, I called about 9 o'clock. I called Landstar operations and I said, "Hey, here's the situation." I said, "Here's what I'd like to do. In the morning, when they open, I'm going to have my driver tell them, look, you got 1 hour to give me good paperwork, give me placards, or I want you to unload it and I'm leaving." And she said, "Absolutely. That's a completely reasonable position to hold. I give them the opportunity to fix it. If they don't, get it out of my trailer. I'm going to go do something else." Well, he went in there this morning. They fixed it. They gave his paperwork right. They got his placards right. Still sucks that he's going to be on this weekend, load all weekend, and he lost a load for the weekend. I can't do anything about that. It is what it is. We're just going to have to suck it up. I had a guy today lose 2 loads because of the storm. Shipper's closed, right? Storm's coming through, right? Your response to how you handle bad things when they come along, and I hate to break this to y'all, but you're going to get detained sometimes and you're not going to get paid for it. And sometimes you're going to get a truck ordered not used and you're not going to get paid for it.
But that's not fair.
It's not fair. Well, fair is where to go get funnel cakes, okay? To see bearded women,
That ain't fair.
especially in West Virginia. You're
Also,
going
also on that step deck, you're going to have to kind of watch your deadhead because you're not going to reload like you are a van. You're going to have to drive to get to reload.
yeah.
So
I would
keep track of that.
yeah. I mean, it's looking at your market. I interviewed a guy one time that wanted to come to Landstar, and he was an owner operator in the Northwest somewhere, and he had a curtain side van. So he had hard swing doors on the back and curtain sides. And while we're on the interview, and he's like, "Well, I'm going to bring this trailer to Landstar." And I said, "Well, does Landstar have any freight for that trailer?" "Oh, yeah." So I picked up my phone. I texted Phil, platform expert at Landstar. I said, "Does Landstar have any freight for a curtain side van?" He said, "No, God, no." So I went to the guy and I said, "Well, according to Phil, that trailer has no value here." "Well, Landstar said it did." And I said, "No, you called somebody in a cubicle and asked them, could you lease on a curtain side van? And they looked at a list and said, yeah. Does that mean they have any freight for it? No." Same thing with a step deck. Everybody's got this mad obsession with step decks. But if you go look at the number of loads available for a step deck versus number of available loads for a flatbed, it's a huge difference. Flatbed versus step deck. I haven't seen that kind of
Justin
money in a long while.
91D.
Yeah. I haven't seen that kind of money in a long while. I guess you're not bringing drivers home on the weekends. I have drivers that are home on the weekend.
The
and I have drivers
insinuation with your question there, Justin, is that drivers can't go home because or they can't make that kind of money. That's just not true. And we don't bring drivers home to begin with. You're talking like someone who employs drivers. Our drivers choose when they go home. They make the decision whether to go home or not because they're here to learn how to be in business, and they understand that being home does not pay bills, it causes bills. So if you make the decision to stay out and not go home this weekend and make more money, that's what a decision a business owner makes on an employee. So your question is worded in a way that it's a little bit unfair
he has
because
a follow-up.
all right.
Will they still make that money without weekends was the point. Well, if you're loaded when you go home under a load.
Yeah.
I
I mean,
mean,
the bottom line is when you're working, you have to be at work to make money. Okay. So you have to make the decision. Do I want to work 50 weeks or 52 weeks or 48 weeks or 40 weeks? Do I want to work 5 days or 7 days? That's a decision that you have to make. You cannot expect to make the same thing in 48 weeks that somebody else makes in 52 weeks. Not that doesn't mean that that person is not doing the job right. That's a decision that they have to make. So when you're in business, you have to decide, do I want to make this kind of money and am I willing to put in this amount of work to make it? That's a decision that you have to make. Um, so, I mean, the answer to your question is that's up to the individual driver to decide whether they want to make X number of dollars or be home all the time. Um,
Well, and it also depends on where you live,
well,
right?
and that's true
You
too.
know, I don't where Justin, where do you live, right? I mean, I live in West Virginia, close to Charleston, so I live right on the interstate, okay? So from March 14th of 2018 to August 21st of 2021, my trailer was loaded. There were, I went on vacation once, we went to the truck show a couple of times, but my trailer was loaded for 3 years. I picked up a load on Friday, I went to the house, I delivered it Monday. Picked up a load Tuesday, did all my stops, picked up a load Friday, rinse, lather, repeat. My trailer was loaded for 3 years, right? It was very, very, very rare that my trailer wasn't loaded, and I would much rather it be loaded on that weekend while I do my reset at home, you know? But if you live in a place where you're not on a freight lane, that's more difficult. Um, it's but it's all about the market, and a lot of truck drivers are guilty of only going where they want to go. Well, I don't go there. Okay. All right. Well, you know, generally speaking, the rates pay better to go places that people don't want to go. I ran the Northeast that 3 years. New York, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, every single week, right? I went to that, and I did stuff that nobody else wanted to do, driver unloads and all that stuff. Um, um, you know, it's you have to look at the market, you know. Um,
Unfortunately, you have to do what you have to do to stay in business, and not a lot of times that's go to work. I hate to tell you that, but that's the whole idea here. That's what we're here to do. That's what we teach. That's what you have to do to make a living is go to work.
and the other issue too is, and I see this with so many company drivers, and I probably was guilty of this myself many years ago. You feel you feel like a slave as a company driver. You have to do what they tell you. You have to go where they tell you. Well, I'm going to be an owner operator. I'm going to get the freedom to do what I want to do and go where I want to go, which is true. Okay, it's not that it's not true. It certainly is. You're an owner operator. Nobody can tell you what to do. Um, but that's part of the problem, right? Because there's nobody cracking the whip. There's nobody holding you accountable. Um, there's nobody to stop you. Well, if you're going to start a new business, and trucking really is the only business I have seen that's like this. In any other business, it's not a surprise or a shock that while you're working to build that business, you have to work really, really, really hard, like insane amount of hours. Um, you have to give up and sacrifice lots of things to keep that business going long enough to where it is strong enough and your personal financial position is strong enough that you can begin to do the things that you want to do when you want to do them. Larry calls it the Landstar early retirement plan. People come to Landstar and work half of how much they should be working. They should be driving 3,500 miles a week. They should be scraping and digging and clawing for every penny of revenue that they can find. They should be working like absolute crazy people until their business and their personal financial position is strong enough that they don't have to work like that. And that's the advantage to being in business, self-employment, and entrepreneurship is that eventually, if you'll put in the hard work, you will eventually get to the point where you can reap the benefits that a company driver or an employee, I should say, an employee will never experience if they're only an employee their whole life. They have to wait till they retire. So, um, you have to be willing to do things that you're not willing to do today as a company driver, as an employee. You have to work insanely hard to get the business to survive. And so that's what gets under my skin so much about a bunch of these people that want a shortcut provided for them. They want the government to get involved, or they want to join this association, and we're gonna make things easier for me. Okay, well listen, I've been over here busting my ass. I don't need your help, buddy. I certainly don't want any more from the government, because those people have such a great track record of fixing things. I've earned everything that I have. I've earned the position, I've earned the skills, I've earned the knowledge. And you don't get the shortcut around me. You have to outwork me. You have to out hustle me. If you're not willing to do that, get in the back seat, because I'm not going to play with you, and I'm not going to put up with you trying to force your way into somewhere where you don't belong and you have not earned that position. And so my friends who are brokers, they are my friends. They're people that I trust. There are people that I respect. When you start talking trash about my friends just because you don't understand economics, well, that go sue your high school. That's their fault. But stay out of my way, and stay out of my friends' way. We're going places. We're taking care of people. We're running businesses. We're doing what we need to do. Bunch of y'all candy ass little bastards just need to sit down and shut up, because I'm tired of listening to you whining and bitching, complaining like a bunch of teenage girls. Oh, the brokers are ruining my job. No, that's your fault. Your business sucks because of you. It ain't the brokers. It ain't the carriers. Fortunately, it's not even the president or Congress. You have done a wonderful job screwing up your life all by yourself. If you would just look in the mirror and understand that you're the only person that can fix it, you finally have a chance to turn your life around. But please stop this nonsense game of we're going to band together and we're going to kill it. Shut up. Just shut up. Okay, I'm done. Oh, let's see. Do you have any broker connections in the Western 11 states? Nope. We don't run past 35. Enjoyed the live coverage of the shop last night. Yeah, that was fun. That was kind of impromptu. Just, didn't have anything better to do. So I think, hey, we'll go live. And it worked out well. We might do that some more for you. So where are we at here? Earned 30 minutes. All right, y'all give us some more questions. Get us something to get us riled up and thinking here. I'm going back through the comments, make sure I didn't miss any. Calvin prefers corn dogs to funnel cakes at the fair. Now there used to be a time, and I mean, I had this experience when I was first at Landstar. One of those not temporary Texas scales, but one of those little pull off areas that they're hardly ever in. I think it was over near Sherman, maybe on 30. If that sounds right. Anyway, they were pulling trucks in, and he's pointing, and he looks down the side of my truck, sees a blue star, and he just went, "Go on." Because at least at that time, Landstar was a little more known for, and probably really by the numbers, probably still is. I mean, there's 8,000 owner operators. I'd say there's a bunch of them that do a good job keeping their equipment up.
So I've got a question for Justin. He's
Uh-huh.
crazy happy at 5,800 plus a week. Well, not happy, but it's the best I can do. Well, why is it that you can't do more than $5,800 a week if you're not happy with that?
Well, I mean, if you are, I mean, here's the bottom line. Look, if you this goes back to people not knowing their numbers. Okay. It doesn't matter what business you're in. Okay. My cost is 3,000. I make 5,800. That's a $2,800 spread. I'm happy. Right. Or I can say, well, look, in this market, the best I can do is 5,800. And my costs are X. And so my profit is Y. And I'm doing okay with that, you know? Um, um, now, if well, here's another important question. Is that 5,800 to the truck, or is that 5,800 subject to a carrier taking a portion of it in exchange for uh, services like insurance and stuff? I mean, if it's 5,800 to the truck, then that's pretty damn good because ours, I mean, 8,000, we're at 5,760 to the truck at our 8,000 goal. So, I mean, if we're talking, okay, 50, okay, well, no, Justin, that's great. 5,800 your cut.
No, he
That's
says
fine.
he clears 2,200 to 2,500 a week before taxes.
I mean, 100 grand, you know, that's 100 grand, you know? Um,
But that wasn't my question. Was you said that's all you can do. My question is that why can't you do more if you wanted to? Or can you do more if you wanted to?
I mean, 5,800, let's say you work 50 weeks out of the year, it's $290,000, you know? Okay, let me pose this, Justin. What if, okay, you say, all right, fine, the ceiling is 5,800, that's all I can do. Okay, one of the most important lessons that Larry taught me along the way is every dollar that you work to earn comes with a cost, right? There's some cost. It could be a penny, it could be 20 pennies, right? That you have to spend out to make a dollar. But every penny you save, you get 100% of. So maybe, Justin, the question is not how do I gross more? How do I get better fuel mileage? How do I
How do
do things to lower the bottom end?
how do you keep more?
Yeah. That could be where the focus needs to be, right? Do I have the best tires that I can get to get the best fuel mileage? Have I modified my truck? Have I gotten a good alignment? Am I running the right oil? Do I, are there modifications that I can make to this truck to make it cost less money? The 5,800 then becomes really a non-issue. Whatever the gross is, the gross is. But what about, well, how much control do we have down here at the bottom? How much more can we save in making our truck more efficient? Um, maybe we need to slow down. Maybe we need not drive so fast, right? I mean, there's so many things that we can do, and that's a big part of our program. Is yes, we have to teach you how to get maximum revenue, but we also have to teach you how to spend as little as possible. You know, so um, that's a huge thing, right? Is how much are you spending? Let's see. Is it worth manual swapping a truck? Um, maybe. I mean, if we were talking about a pre 20 a pre 2007, not a big deal. Um, I mean, there were lots of conversions because the automatics back in the day were hot garbage. So it wasn't a huge deal to manual swap, especially if you had a 3-pedal automatic. Okay, I don't know. Can you what all is involved in manual swapping a 2018 Cascadia? Okay, we got the cost of the transmission. We may have to rework the drive shaft. That's a couple grand. Okay, you can buy a nice used manual transmission for 2,000, 2,500 bucks. Probably got to pay somebody a couple of grand to do it. You got to have a third pedal. But is there programming involved? If you take that automatic transmission away from that ECM, is it going to freak out? What's your CPC going to do? You know, I've seen these CPCs make it to where you can't press the accelerator. The truck will start and run, but you hit the accelerator and nothing happens. So are you going to have to spend a bunch of money in programming to get a truck with a DD15 or an ISX or whatever to now say, okay, well, I no longer have an automatic. Now I have a manual. That could be prohibitively expensive when you could just go buy a manual truck. Yes, I know they're harder to find. But again, we get our friend the calculator. We start talking to people. I mean, I'm sure it's done all the time. You know, we sold a Cascadia one time that we had reached the end of our relationship with this Cascadia, and we had a choice: was it pay $17,000 to fix that truck and still own it, or I found a 2000, 2001, I think it's 2000 Volvo on El Cap for sale for 15. And we went 17 to fix this Cascadia and still own it, 15 for a 2000 Volvo with a 12.7. Of course, he goes down there with cash money and buys it for $9,000. Well, when the guy came to buy this Cascadia, what, for $5,000, I think, five or $6,000.
Wow.
So I'm walking him around it, and we're talking about it. And he said something about putting a 12.7 in it. He's going to take out the DD15 and put in a 12.7. And he was like Salvadoran or something. He was South American, some sort. And I said, man, you can't do that. He goes, this is not a problem.
This will not be a problem.
This will not be a problem. And I'm like, all right then, brother. You have right at it. Because that's one of those, can you or should you? Can you put a 12.7 in place of a DD15? Yes, you can. Should you? No, you should not. Right? Measuring risk. Do people do it every day? Sure they do. Do they run outlaw and get away with it? Sure they do. Listen, I would love to know how many illegal trucks are going up and down the roads in California every single day because they just don't have the apparatus to catch everybody. Dustin Belk, why shouldn't you? There's a great question. Why should you not take a motor, a post emissions motor out of a truck and put a pre-emissions engine in it? Well, number one, it's illegal. Okay. Now, you're not going to find a guy in me that really gives a shit about the law. Okay. I couldn't care less. I don't care about the EPA. I don't care about any of that stuff. However, when I'm in business, I have to measure for risk. Pittsburgh Power, a few years ago, built a glider kit, a 100% legal glider kit. I believe it was a Western Star. So the customer legally purchased a Western Star glider kit, toted it over Pittsburgh Power. Pittsburgh Power put a 100% legal engine in that truck. It was pre-emission 12.7 or Cummins or something. Dude gets pulled into a scale in Pennsylvania, and they said, this truck's illegal. He says, no, it's not. Pittsburgh Power had to deliver the paperwork to this scale, or the guy wasn't going to let him leave. It was going to leave on a wrecker. Now, obviously, the cop was an idiot, right? It's a measure of risk. What am I going to do? How am I going to tell the customer, hey, man, sorry, I can't deliver this load because the cops just shut me down because my engine's illegal, right? Dustin, I thought that turned it into a glider. No, a glider kit is a piece of equipment bought from the factory that has 2 of 3 components. It either has an engine and a transmission and no rear end. No, 1 of 3. Or 2 of, is it 2 of 3 or 1 of 3? I think it's 2.
Be a glider.
Yeah.
It has to have
It's
2 of the 3.
2 of 3. So either A, it has an engine and transmission and no drive axles. It has drive axles and a transmission but no motor. It has drive axles but no transmission and no motor. But it comes that way. Where the origin of the glider kit was back in the 80s. the drive lines would outlast the truck, the body. The bodies would fall down around the engine and transmission. So to save money, they would just buy a glider kit from the factory, transplant the drive line and engine over, and keep on trucking. Well, then we had this huge boom of gliders in the 2000s where you had, what do you call them down in Tennessee? Fitzgerald, and I think Harrison Truck Center. There were people that built gliders. Schneider built a ton of gliders. I mean, an absolute ton of gliders. So you could buy the truck. And in Schneider's case, if you're looking for a glider, the best one that you can get is a former Schneider glider because it came with an engine. They transplanted the axles. They used reman axles or whatever to finish them up. But the great thing about that is when you look that truck up in the computer, all of the data is there for the engine. If you buy a glider from the factory with no engine, that part of the build sheet's blank. So when you want to go in and get an air conditioning line, good luck to you.
Bring your old one.
Bring your old one. We'll match it up.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm not a fanboy of gliders. I get them and I understand them and all that stuff. But if you a glider, and I've not actually seen it, but it's something to this effect. A glider kind of has on its like build sheet or whatever they call it, that paper, it kind of has two VIN numbers. It's like it's just different. It's just different. Okay. But it has to have originated from the factory as a glider kit. You cannot take a truck that was built as a complete truck and turn it into a glider kit. That's not possible. So if you take a 2007 that has a 14-liter Detroit and you pluck it out and you drop a 12.7 in it, that truck is illegal. That truck was built with EGR. You cannot put a non-EGR engine in a truck that has EGR. You cannot put a truck that has only EGR into a truck that has a DPF. You can't do it.
You can do it, but you're breaking some regulations to do it.
Would a 2003 with a motor from 2000 be illegal? No, because it follows the emissions. Okay, there's EPA 04, there's EPA 07, there's EPA 2010,
09,
07 and 10. It was 07 and 10 for the model year.
Okay.
So in 04, we had to have EGR. In 07, we had to have DPF. Now, you can't find an actual 2007 model year truck. All of them that were built were right before the date. All these big carriers, Swift and Schneider and JB Hunt, and they just pre-ordered a ton of 2007s with 06 engines. So technically they're 06 trucks, even though they have an 07 designation. Then you jump to 08, 9, those had DPF only. Then in 10, we had to have the DEF and the selective catalytic crap, SCR.
Yeah.
Stuff. That came in 10. And then we're continuing on that path. And I guess they're getting ready to do another round next year. God knows what kind of nightmare that's going to be. So it's all about the emissions, and it's the year of the engine, not the truck. If that truck was built in 06, it has to have EGR. 04, 05, 06, EGR. 07, 8, 9, DPF. 10 and up, DPF and SCR. My buddy's got a Schneider glider. We had a Schneider glider. Unfortunately, a guy rolled it over and totaled it. The Schneider gliders are great. They're pretty easy to manage, and they're set up magically for fuel mileage because they've all got 264 gears and a direct drive 10-speed. So they're great fuel mileage trucks. I mean, Schneider built a ton of them. So if it's orange and it's a Columbia that's built like 2011 to 2013, it's probably going to be a glider. So, okay, let's see here. I'm looking for more YouTube comments. Yeah, they're still talking about transmissions. I mean, it's one of those things like I could probably do it, since I know how to swap a transmission. I have the equipment available to me in a place. If you could do it yourself, you could literally drop the transmission on your own. Yeah, you could probably do it. But if you got to start paying people to drop the transmission and do programming and all that kind of stuff, um, then you have to consider that labor cost, which is going to be extensive. Daryl Peoples, what's the best way to get set up to do your 18-month program, brother? The website's it's right in front of you. BlueRibbonLogistics.com. BlueRibbonLogistics.com. It's right on the screen. It's right up here. See right there? Look right there. BlueRibbonLogistics.com. Go there. There's a whole page about the masterclass. Everything. It's all explained. Could you build me a truck pre-mission? No, I don't have time. Would that Schneider glider be a good truck to buy if you came across one? Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. The Schneider gliders are great. They're built for fuel mileage. They maintain them pretty well, because I saw a truck in the shop last year that was like a 2020. It was a glider day cab. So apparently they were still building them as late as 2020 or 2021. I don't know that they still are. What's your opinion on green APU? I don't have one. I don't like APUs as a kind of general rule. Now, our friend Steve was telling me about, and unfortunately, I can't think of the name of it. Let me look it up. There's a guy that's building a really nice electric APU. I will, and I can't find. I'll have to scroll through here and find his. There it is. It's called Electric APU. It's pretty simple. Out of Island Lake, Illinois. Electric APU. The guy builds a really, really nice system. Now they're about $8,500, and that's kind of the issue, right? Um, when you get this guy involved, okay, we got $8,500 that we're going to spend, put on an electric APU to save fuel, right? That's the point, and to save on emissions, because emissions. That's one thing about emissions trucks. They they don't idle well, right? Idling is really, really, really hard on these emissions trucks. Okay, so let's say we're going to run 300 days a year, but we only have to idle 150 of those days. Okay. So at 10 hours, we burn a gallon of diesel. So that's 10 gallons at let's say 380. All right. So 10 times 380, it's uh, 10 times 380. All right. It's $38 a night times 150. That's a savings of $5,700. Okay. So it's going to take about a year and a half to get the $8,500 back that you spent out, and then you begin to save money going forward. Now, you probably
Except that the maintenance cost on those things is incredible.
right. Now, this one that Steve has, this electric APU, he's been running one for a year or two now, and it's completely electric. It has glass mat batteries. It has its own little charging thing built into it. Um, uh, But diesel APUs for me are an absolute no. The maintenance cost on those things, I mean, Thermo King ought to be ashamed of themselves what they charge to work on these things. Um, it just comes down to it. I have not found the calculation yet that shows me that the benefit that you get from an APU for what you have to spend to get. Now, if you go, what's the guy out in Missouri? APU Center, APU Store, APU something. He's out there by the TA in Stafford, Missouri on 44. You can probably buy one for
Half.
35, 4,500 bucks, probably half. You can get one used. Okay. Well, now, you know, when you are you're driving an emissions truck, they don't like to idle. Idling is very hard on them, so you have to make that consideration. It's not just about fuel savings. Now, if I'm driving a paid for '07 truck or older, and it's not harming the engine to idle it, and I'm only going to idle when I absolutely need to idle, it's hard to make the mathematical calculation to have an APU when you consider the maintenance cost that is involved in it, which is significant. Now, again, if you do all your own work, more power to you. But I wish you the best of luck because they are awful. I hate them. And I've also, the only APUs that we have were already on the truck when we got the truck. Um, you know, it's is what it is. Um, you know, now if you here's the other thing. All right, the other consideration is the market has provided us with alternatives like max mileage, fuel-borne catalyst, for which we're a dealer, by the way. You can pick it up in Charleston at our shop. Or we can drop ship it to you. So if you want to go onto the website, blueribbonlogistics.com, you can order catalyst. We'll ship it to you. Dispenser bottles. We also stocking distributors of OPS. We install OPS at the shop, and we do MD alignments, and we can do a diesel force cleaning. So when you consider the things that you can do to help with your emissions problems, like using the catalyst in every tank, then, I mean, I don't know that we have a truck that has an APU that works. Maybe one. And it doesn't have a DPF. So I have not personally seen the problems generated by idling. But I know, I mean, if you were driving year round from Laredo to Florida, well, it's probably a different story for you. Our people go all over the place. They're eventually going to get up north where it's cooler and you don't have to idle it much in the winter. I mean, the summer. And then most of the trucks have bunk heaters, so you don't have to idle at night. The bunk heater, though, that's a absolute no brainer because you can install one of them things for $1,000 and they'll save you a ton of money. And I would also tell you, we bought, I don't have it with me, at the truck show, we bought a little jump starter called Loki Thor, Lokithor, which I guess is a play on the it was like $200 and it will start a truck. I would not be traveling up and down the road as an owner operator without one of these new jump boxes in the truck, or two, maybe. For one jump start is $300 or $400. So if you had two jump boxes, hook one on the starter and one on the batteries, it'll start. That's another thing that technology has brought us. These small little jump boxes that you can carry and keep charged up in your truck that can keep you from having to call a road service for a jump start. So it's just one of those deals. There's no magic pill. There's no real blanket answer to anything except you get out the calculator and use that every single time to make the decision you need to make. So, all right. Well, y'all, we are at the 2-hour mark. I have had a very long week. and I'm going to shut her down. So Larry is about to embark on vacation. So will you be back Friday? Or are you still going to be down at your?
No, but I'm gonna take my laptop so
Okay.
I'm available Friday.
Okay. Well, we will be back with you next Friday. And which I said that 2 weeks ago, and I didn't think about being stuck in a car for 1,000 miles. But we will be back with you next Friday. Larry will have his toes in the sand and a drink in his hand, maybe. And we'll be back
Absolutely.
with you. So I should be back I should have a financial report for you on Wednesday. And I have a shop video for you on Friday. And then, stay tuned on that TikTok because I'm liable to go live in any minute and have a conversation with you. So everybody, be safe, and we'll see you next week.